Good evening, colleagues. My recommendation would be, in the absence of Mr. Hurd and the cancellation of his session tonight, would be to start with academic achievement and have Miss Ann Botticelli and all the hard work that we put into preparing for that session be the lead session. That is the work. Colleagues, that's the work that many of you I hear all the time say we need to focus more time on academic achievement. And so that's exactly what we've done in preparation for that session. So Ms. Kathy Evans Brown, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, if you want to, if the board agrees with that, then that's what I recommend that we do. And then we'll see where we are after that presentation.
Okay, sounds like a plan to me. Can I get started? All right, good evening.
Get started, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Okay, good evening, colleagues. Okay, so in a recent New York Times article I read, it was reported that a national state of emergency in children's mental health, stability, and they call it academic crisis. So we're in an academic crisis right now. So states receive federal stimulus aid, ESSER, as a result of learning loss, learning lag, or whatever we want it, what term we want to use to call it. Nevertheless, Buffalo received $289 million in March of 21 to remedy the devastation caused by this pandemic. Likewise, it was mandated by the federal government that 20% of ESSER funds be set aside specifically to address our most neediest children to remedy their learning loss. And so with that, I'll pass the torch back to you, Dr. Cash.
All right. The torch is hot, so thank you for that. All right, colleagues, good evening. My prefatory remarks will focus on this. We have 10 slides tonight, all focused on the major content and program of work under our Office of Instruction, led by Ms. Ann Botticelli. Certainly, this has been a team effort, and many cabinet level colleagues have contributed to what you will hear over the next half hour or so. The slides, I have asked staff to also put at the bottom of each slide a theory of action that aligns with that slide and with that content. It's always important to have a theory of action to go along with any aspect of your work. That's something that I hope the board has learned this year, which is a best practice, as well as the listening audience. It's very important. Otherwise, you end up having random initiatives, random requests and demands, and they're not aligned to a program of work and aligned to theories of action. Both a mega theory of action, which you've heard in your board work sessions before, and the numerous other related theory of action that can line up to each program of work. So for example, multilingual education will have theory of action. Special education, theory of action. Encore subjects, science subjects, STEAM subjects, IT, literacy, English, math, all of that work has to be aligned and focused for better student outcomes. So that's kind of point one that you'll hear, and I want you to listen for tonight. The other quick mini lesson that I'd like to share with you, board members, is that in my long experience in this work, there are major independent variables that we work on, and those independent variables are designed to impact dependent variables. Now, under this board, you've set a charge, and I've certainly concurred and directed staff accordingly, that our major independent variables are A, E, O, Q. So access, equity, opportunity, and quality. In other words, greater access, greater equity, greater opportunity, and greater quality are independent variables that we are focusing on to then impact major dependent variable. The major dependent variable is academic achievement. That's the most important dependent variable, among others, in our work, academic achievement. So everything we do is designed to impact that. Now, the other dependent variables that students have to develop and acquire skill in are things like, and we have to help with that, things like interest, effort, motivation, persistence. See? Time and effort. Time and effort. Today, with what we can provide as a school district through our 24/7 technology proficiencies and supports, you can learn at any time, any place, as long as you put the time and the effort in. See, you're motivated and you're interested in, you can achieve at high levels. You can achieve at high levels. This is not all school system giving you and making sure that you have everything all the time. We give you what we said we were going to give you in the education bargain, and that's half of it. But the other half is on you as a parent and on you as a student. And so that's the focus tonight. That's what you'll hear, and that's what we welcome a hearty discussion on after. So, Ms. Ann Botticelli, if you would start with your slides and your commentary along, move at pace, and then we will open it up for dialogue. Ms. Botticelli, as always, the inimitable Ms. Ann Botticelli.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Admir, would you mind pulling that up for me?
And colleagues, if you can make sure your mics are muted and your phones, and Ms. Botticelli, make sure we can hear you.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with my volume, but let me know if you can't hear me.
That's better.
Okay. So I'm going to talk tonight about the work we've been doing with our ARP and ESSER funds, but I've included some other relevant academic initiatives. So just so we're aware, everything is not strictly funded out of ARP, but there's a number of things we're doing in the district that I think are relevant. Next slide, please, Admir. Admir? Thank you. So I'm going to start by talking about some of the work we've been doing with literacy. So again, I'm really only referencing the relatively new work that we're doing, which is not to say that other things have stopped. So I might not be talking much about Lexia, for instance, tonight, but that doesn't mean that it's not still happening in the schools. I wanted to mention Raising a Reader. So we have purchased this out of the ARP funds. Raising a Reader is a collection of books that will go home monthly with students on a rotating basis. We will also be holding workshops for parents so that they have strategies to work with their students when they're reading these books. So questioning techniques, how do you provide an open-ended question and elicit a response from your child? How do you help engage them and help them make connections to the text? So those workshops will be happening at the school level, and we'll be training our teachers on how to facilitate that work with the families. We're also purchasing some manipulatives and decodable readers to support phonics instruction at the school level. We have expanded our diverse collections in Mayan, so that affected students in grades K to 6. We have been providing a lot of training for Orton Gillingham, which is a new intervention targeted at students who are struggling to learn to decode. That is a tier 3 intervention that schools will be using. And we've already had about 129 teachers either complete or are partway through our trainings, which are taking place on Saturdays. So not only will this target students in general education who might be struggling with reading, but also we are training our special education teachers so that they will be able to support their students as well. Our K12 literacy curriculum has been updated. So I think there's something blocking the slide, but it has been updated, meaning that pacing has been adjusted to make sure that the priority skills have the appropriate amount of time and are emphasized in instruction. And the reading department has gone through and looked at prior year's skills and given guidance to teachers how to spiral those in when necessary to make sure that kids are able to follow the grade level curriculum but receive additional supports as needed. So again, during our core instructional time, we are delivering grade level instruction, but teachers have the ability to spiral in skills that they think their students might benefit from additional exposure to. And then of course we have RTI time when specific interventions can be provided to students. So I've actually been in schools this year, and I've been really excited to see that many of our programs are being used and with great efficacy. So I think you remember last year we brought in the Haggerty program for phonemic awareness, and I was really excited to see this being used at schools. So teachers are working with their primary students to make sure that they understand the sounds of the language. And so they're doing I saw a phenomenal lesson at School 67. It's just been very exciting to see that in action. You know, I think we also talked about the fact that we had brought in our letters-based phonics lessons that we created. So I've been able to see those in action in schools and received positive feedback from teachers. So those are two targeted ways that we're making sure students have the appropriate instruction that they need to make sure that they stay on grade level, but have that ability to get the extra support in particular skills that they might have missed or have been struggling with. So the instructional priorities are also being monitored by our administrators, who are doing a really, really phenomenal job with our electronic coaching tool, capturing data so they can analyze trends and support their staff. So as part of the professional development, we have TNTP working with our administrators, and I've also been able to go out to many of our schools and specifically work with administrators to make sure that we're all normed and that we're all looking for the same things and are able to provide that targeted support to our teaching staff. So that's been really, really powerful. I think you remember that we purchased new versions of junior great books for our grades 3, 4, and 5 this year. So that is part of our RTI program for students who are on grade level or accelerated. And that program works to develop their comprehension skills, their vocabulary skills, discrete understanding of specific advanced skills in literacy. We're also looking to purchase a morphology program for grades 5 through 8. So we know that vocabulary is key to comprehension. So when students struggle to understand specific words, their word parts, their prefixes, suffixes, and roots, we know that they have trouble with content area text. So for example, many words dealing with math come from Greek. Many words dealing with science and social studies come from Latin. So when we want to procure a program that will help students be able to recognize those word parts, specifically Greek, Latin, and potentially French, and help them recognize those word parts, recognize the meaning, and apply that understanding to the content area texts that they're reading in classrooms. One of the key pieces here is to have the data at our fingertips so that we can really strategically support our students. So this year, you recently approved a new assessment that we'll be using with our 3rd through 8th graders. It'll give us a good sense of how students are performing aligned to grade level standards, and also give us an indicator of how they might be performing, how they'll do on the state assessments. So that will be beginning very soon, and we're very thankful to OSA for making this happen. And we're actually sending a recommendation to you in January for a similar test for grades 9 to 12. So that data will help us inform instruction in the classroom and let teachers provide targeted, standards-aligned instruction to particular students who may be struggling, or to accelerate students who are doing very well. So that data is going to be very powerful. And OSA has been training our staff to make sure that they understand the DDI process, data-driven instruction, so that they can use that data effectively in the classroom. We've trained our teachers in Step Up to Writing, but this year with with Title I funds, we are actually able to purchase Step Up to Writing licenses for our English teachers, grades 7 to 12. So that allows them to have access to additional, very specific lessons in Step Up to Writing that they can use with their students. So for example, if they want to emphasize transitional words in students' writing, there are lessons in Step Up that they can now access specifically to target that particular skill. While we're talking about Step Up, Julie Romaine and the English department have actually created a new professional development session that we're rolling out on how to integrate technology into your Step Up to Writing instruction. And it's been very well received so far. We're also looking to add a text and module by an Indigenous author to our grade 8 curriculum. So that's still to be determined, but we're looking forward to hopefully working on that in the next few months and potentially being able to either roll it out 4th quarter or next year. And we are also beginning to develop a study skills course to support our high school students. So that would be an elective. It's a half-year course, and it would help students with their research skills, with their study skills, with other relevant skills to help them succeed in the classroom. So I think Dr. Cash mentioned that we have a theory of action. So in terms of literacy, we believe that if we provide enhanced resources and use assessment data to better inform instruction, then we will improve graduation rates and have improved academic outcomes for literacy. Admir, if you could go to the next slide. So I'd also like to talk a little bit about the work we're doing with mathematics. So recently, our pre-K department has been reorganized to better support mathematics and literacy instruction. So we've actually hired an instructional coach specifically devoted to mathematics in the pre-K classroom, and another literacy coach specifically developed to literacy development in the pre-K classroom. So they'll be able to provide targeted supports to our teaching staff and show them the best practices for literacy and mathematics in the pre-K department. We've also hired 2 new support teachers for mathematics. One will work with grades K to 3, and one will work with grades 4 to 6. So again, they'll be able to provide targeted support to our teachers. We know that mathematics is always an area that we want to focus on. We are providing specific training to our teachers. So you know we've talked about the Gates grant that we received targeted at grade 6. So those teachers have started attending training on Saturdays with their administrators. And we're also providing training called Numbers for the rest of our elementary teaching staff who work with mathematics. And so these 2 particular teachers on assignment will be able to support not only that particular rollout of the training, but also go into classrooms and work with teachers to make sure that they can implement the training they receive. K to 12, similar to literacy, our mathematics curriculum has been updated. So they've prioritized particular standards and changed the pacing in our classrooms so that teachers have adequate time to focus on the most important mathematical skills. Now that's during core instruction. We know that we also have RTI time in mathematics. We've been procuring, or we're in the process of procuring additional manipulatives to support mathematics instruction. So you'll be seeing a board recommendation for that coming through in January. You know also that we've purchased Zern, which supports core instruction, and Moby Max, which can support both core instruction and intervention. We've also purchased IXL, which is an online intervention that we specifically have targeted toward algebra classrooms. And I just wanted to share a little feedback about IXL. So it has a diagnostic component, and that diagnostic breaks everything down for the teacher, shows the teacher exactly where the student needs support, which particular strands in mathematics, and then also recommends lessons to the students. So when the student has completed the diagnostic, they get immediate feedback about what activities they should be practicing, and they can do that online. And a teacher at Lafayette had reached out just to give some, share some feedback on that particular program. I was in her classroom maybe a month or so ago, and I got to see the students using the program and how excited they were when they were successful. And she reached out to say that so far they've answered over 20,000 questions in IXL just in her algebra classrooms. That's over 194 hours of practice time. And she said that a quarter of that has been the students doing it on their own when they're at home. So they're not, she's not assigning it to them for homework necessarily. They're doing it independently. She said one student is absolutely obsessed. He's answered 1,700 questions on his own. So she really had great feedback to share about how productive the work has been using this new program. And I also had communicated with a teacher over the break from Burgard, who was also extremely happy with IXL. And she just wanted us to make sure that everything was working so that we could keep it going over the break. So we have actually had some great feedback on this newest program. In terms of the instructional priorities, so again, principals are continuing to monitor, and we've had some really great feedback at particular schools. I was at school 18, and I've talked with their administrative team and their mathematics coach, Lisa Sanders, and they are doing a phenomenal job of showing what it looks like to explain your thinking. They do Talk Tuesdays and Write Wednesdays, and the kids talk about the math and write about the math on specific targeted days. And so that has been really productive at their school. I was also able to see Mr. Majik over at School 19. In action, I was able to watch how he facilitated instruction with his students and had them have mathematical conversations, critique one another's thinking, talk about the mathematical strategies, and give feedback to one another. So it's really powerful to see those instructional priorities in action. So I've been really happy with the visits I've been able to hold so far. Again, we're going to be recommending a benchmark assessment to you coming up at the next board meeting so that we can have additional data on our high school mathematics program. And we have a few high school courses that are currently under development. One is being piloted right now at Bennett. It's a computer programming math course, but we also have a data science class coming up for next year in mathematics that is under development now. So there's a lot happening in the world of mathematics and BPS, and we will keep rolling along. We have a fantastic central office department for mathematics, and we have some phenomenal teachers in the district. Admir, if you could go to the next slide. I'd like to briefly talk a little bit about our STEAM initiative. So we are getting off the ground with our ARP funding, and we're really excited. We're about to we have brought in Ultimate Fort Builder, so it's been ordered. Robotics and engineering programs have been ordered for K-1, and we are going to be bidding out integrated technology for iPads so that we can continue that work. So we'll be able to do some pull-out instruction to really focus on STEAM with the lower grades and get these kids excited early on so that as they go up through the years, we can keep infusing more and more STEAM activities, and they can keep taking courses all the way through high school. I think you've heard this year that in grades 7 to 8 CTE technology classes, they've started using our new 3D printers. The teachers attended training for that very recently, so this is part of the curriculum that'll be coming up I believe this quarter. And then next year, we'll be adding additional dimensions with robotics and drones. So that's very exciting. We're hiring a new CTE coach to support teachers as they come on board. So we know how important it is to keep teachers happy, fulfilled, and supported in their first few years of instruction. So this teacher's job will be to support that staff in particular. You know that we purchased earlier on in the year the Labster program to accompany our new living environment text. So teachers are now able to use not only regular labs in the classroom, but also assign online labs to support kids. And considering students might have to work from home at certain times, that is a fantastic opportunity for them. We're also working on a new climate science course to be coming out next year. So we're very excited to be continuing to add to our elective opportunities. We know that if we provide greater access to rigorous and enriching STEAM curriculum and resources, then we will have improved student motivation, engagement, and academic success. So it's really important that we continue with this initiative. Admir, if you could go to the next slide, please. So we've also been able to use our ARP funds to support our Encore classes. So you know that you've approved staffing for our ECC program so that they can add instrumental music. You've been approving purchases for cellos and basses and recorders, and we'll be continuing to bring more items your way because we have the funding to support that programming. You also have approved our musical theater expansion. So Michelle Augusto and her team have been working with teachers to make sure they're ready to roll out the new theater programming. Some of it, you know, is virtual right now. We're hoping we can get to a point where we're able to be in person for everything, but they still have experience with that from last year. People are excited, teachers have been getting trained, and we'll be working with students shortly. We are rolling out a pilot for our new American Popular Music course at Performing Arts. And once they've gotten feedback from the students and staff at Arts, we'll be able to roll this particular course out across the district. So we know that it's really important to continue to engage students in music. So we're not only looking at popular music, but we're also looking at music technology. So what does it mean to be in a recording studio? So right now they are piloting the music technology course at 198 IPrep and 197 MST. And you're going to be seeing a request for additional technology equipment coming your way because we want to make sure those programs are fully supported. And then in the spring, they'll be developing part 2, which is the music recording course to accompany that technology course. So again, we know that music is a great way to hook our kids on education. So not only are we working on the instrumental components, but we're working at the technology component, as well as ongoing vocal music and other types of programming. So next year, we should see a world music course. That's going to be under development this spring. We'll pilot it at a few schools, and then we'll be able to roll it out across the district. So you'll also be seeing recommendations coming your way for instruments to support the world music course that's under development. And then I just wanted to mention, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but Model UN is near and dear to my heart. I used to be a facilitator for that program when I was a teacher. And so Pietro Mendola has been supporting the rollout of new Model UN teams. So we have a number of schools that will be piloting that program this year. 195, I believe, already had a program, but it's new at all the other schools. And if it's successful, we'll continue to roll that out across the district. There's a competition at UB, and I'm sure there are other opportunities for our kids, but it's a wonderful way to engage students with the world around them and help them understand what the issues of the day are and how different countries interpret those issues and what the role of the UN is. So again, if we provide greater access to enriching Encore opportunities, then we know we will see improved student motivation, engagement, and academic outcomes. Admir, next slide, please. So we've talked about this before, but we are continuing our advanced coursework initiative at the high school level. So Equal Opportunity Schools, or EOS, has been partnering with a number of our high schools to not only improve the course offerings, but improve and increase enrollment with students who are typically underserved. So EOS has been coming to meet with our administration teams and our school leadership teams. And right now they're in the middle of surveying students at these buildings to learn what those students want to see offered, what their goals and aspirations are for post-secondary, so that we can pick the right courses to offer to those students. The students will indicate what adults they feel comfortable with so that we can help them connect with different adults to support their AP studies, make sure that they continue to be motivated. And it'll let us know if they've experienced barriers. So has an adult talked to you about AP? Were you aware that you can join AP? Have you worked with anyone, or do you know anyone in AP courses? So by gathering that information, we're better able to target kids that might have gone overlooked otherwise. So the surveys will provide really useful data to schools so that they can inform their programming for next year and make sure they're able to recruit students into the program. And I think you all know that we do not have restrictions on AP. If a student wants to take an AP course, we find a way for them to take AP courses. So EOS is part of that initiative at the district level. We were also able to purchase additional AP textbooks and fund AP teachers, although some of that comes out of Title IV. This year, we're piloting an AP capstone course at MST and Hutch Tech. So it's a 2-year sequence. It's the first time we've ever offered this. But the students really learn a lot about research methodology, and they'll come out after the 2 years having created a capstone project. We also covered AP exam fees. Initially, that was going to be part of ARP, but we actually moved it to O&M because it's so important that we're able to cover those fees for our students that we want it to be permanent. So it moved into the operating and managing budget. We will be setting up a diverse lending library for AP so that teachers can sign out books for their courses and make sure that our kids have exposure to a wide variety of authors and titles. We are in the middle of our Civic Capstone Project pilot at 198 and 304. So they're working with the Social Studies Department to make sure that kids will be ready for the Seal of Civic Literacy. We have started our college transition course, so we purchased textbooks for that and funded teachers. So we're actually sending out a survey for students to complete in the next few weeks to get feedback on how the first semester went, so that we can tweak things if we need to for semester 2. Because we think it's really important that we support kids as they transition from high school to college. And we know that many of our students might be first-time college students in their family. So we want to make sure that they feel supported. So the feedback that we get from this first cohort of students will be really powerful and continue to inform how we work this course. Now, this was no cost to the district, but our Hilbert dual enrollment program is underway. So I think you know that they are funding college credits for students that enroll in their program if they're in certain AP courses that we offer in the district. So students who are successful in those AP courses will walk out with 3 free college credits. ECC is doing something similar with us. We are piloting an African American history course and an African American literature course. So we used ARP funding to purchase textbooks for those courses. But the credits for the students who pass those successfully is actually funded through ECC. So it's of no cost to our students. And I think I hit on the main ideas behind this, but we've been doing AP for a number of years now, but the ARP funding has allowed us to really expand and enhance the work that we do. So if we provide greater course rigor and accelerate student learning by bridging the transition to college and increasing access to and support for college level coursework, then we know we will improve graduation rates and academic outcomes for our students. And I didn't put it on the slide, but I just wanted to mention that we will be offering more training over the summer to continue to increase our pool of AP ready teachers and course offerings. So Admir, if you can go to our next slide. We also want to talk a little bit about the work we've been doing with special education through the ARP funding. So this is actually through a different funding source, but we're expanding our Fast Forward program to a number of new classrooms across the district. So that supports students who have extraordinary needs and might need additional support in literacy. We have calming corners and sensory kits coming our way to support students' social emotional needs. We are partnering with Damon and Canisius College to support students with autism. In some cases for students who can accelerate their learning, and in other cases for students who might need behavioral supports. So right now they are going into classrooms just to see what some of the needs are, to do a quick assessment, and to make sure that they're really targeting the right areas for our staff. So they'll support teachers and our students as well to make sure that they are able to be successful in our classrooms. So Damon is going to work in classrooms to provide support and training, specifically for teachers who work with students with autism. They're currently observing 6 classrooms and conducting a needs analysis to determine particular areas of support. And then they'll expand to 20 classrooms across the district to provide strategies and supports for the students. Additionally, they'll provide staff development libraries, so library of modules that the district can use to train our own staff. Canisius is using SchoolMax, which is a program that's geared towards supporting students with autism who are high functioning. It's a multi-component intervention program, and the focus is to help students with social knowledge, social skills, communication skills, emotion recognition, and social emotional learning. Professional development and consulting is going to be provided to support special education teachers in those classrooms. We are also in the middle of our student voice initiative. So we're piloting with 20 different schools. We initially were looking for a handful to pilot, but we had so many volunteers, we couldn't say no. So right now we're working with students in their IEP process. We want them to be active participants. So they're actually going to be presenting information at their scheduled meetings. So grades 4 and up are currently preparing for their IEP meetings by filling out questionnaires that deal with their likes, strengths, challenges, and needs. And the student will then present this information at their own IEP meetings. The division has also provided workshops for students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in the 15-to-1 and 12-1-1 classrooms. So it's an opportunity to hear about high school options and voice their future high school interests and ask questions so that they can learn about their choices as they move from the 8th grade into high school. We are also in the process of hiring some behavioral specialists that can go out and support different classrooms. So one is already on board, one has been offered the position, and we'll be interviewing for 2 more behavioral specialists. We're also looking to purchase a behavioral screener to give us important information about students as they come. We've hired 8 additional social workers to support buildings across the district, and we'll be looking to hire 8 additional psychologists to do the same. So we've also started piloting our eye-to-eye mentoring program. So middle school students at School 79 will be mentored by students from McKinley. So right now the McKinley students are being trained on how to work with the younger students. We've opened our day treatment program. Well, I should say reopened. So a high school room is currently open, and we're in the process of opening a middle school classroom as well. We're starting our differentiated program expansion for CTE. So 197 and 198 are the beneficiaries this year, and then we'll be expanding those programs to other schools across the district. We are going to be purchasing a transition curriculum, so that will support students with specific lessons for each grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 to be successful in their transition to post-secondary. At our end internally, we are hiring a supervising social worker, and that person will be able to help our social workers get particular hours that they need so that they can bill Medicaid. We'll be working with an IEP compliance coordinator, so that person can target our IEPs, make sure they're written effectively, provide best practices and support for teachers as they write those IEPs. And the goal of that particular position is that they will design an effective monitoring program and work themselves out of a job. So we hope within a few years we no longer need that position. And we're also in the process of converting some of our files to digital images. We just want to stay on top of the efficiency and make sure that we are doing everything as best we can in the special education world. So we know that if we address students' social emotional needs, increase student voice, and support transition to post-secondary education, then we'll be able to move students into less restrictive environments and improve the life outcomes for students with disabilities. So again, this work is very important to us. And I think I mentioned that we were also doing Orton Gillingham training with our special education teachers, grades K to 8. So they'll be able to support students with dyslexia and other needs that might be interfering with their ability to comprehend text. So it's really important to us that that training as well will continue. Admir, next slide, please. So in the world of multilingual education, we have recently been approved to purchase an intervention for ENL. And we've also recently been approved for a bilingual intervention. So those two online programs will be going into action soon. Teachers will be attending training in the next few months. And that will help target students who might just need a little bit more. So they'll be able to use it during their ENL classes, during RTI, but they can also use it from home because it's an online program. So we are very optimistic that these two particular targeted interventions will support the continued growth of our ENL students. We're also out to bid for some Native American classroom library sets. So we're really excited. We've been working with the Native American Resource Program team to vet particular classroom texts. So we're writing some lessons to accompany these libraries, and we're excited to roll those out in the near future. We're also going to be working on our Saturday Heritage Academies. So positions have been posted. We hope that we'll be able to roll these out at upcoming Saturday Academy sessions. So we're looking to support students to continue the growth in their own cultures and languages. We want to support them and make them feel that, how much we value their culture and how important it is, we know, for students to maintain their home languages. And to learn, if they haven't actually been able to take classes in their home languages, maybe to learn some additional language development. So we'll be offering Heritage Academies in Arabic, Bengali, Burmese, Karen, Karenni, Seneca, Somali, and Swahili. So hopefully that will be coming up soon. We would like to start in February if we're able. We are going to be bidding out for some multilingual academic coaches to go into our elementary buildings. So they'll speak the home languages of our students, and they'll be able to support the kids in the classroom, do some translanguaging with them, and just make sure that they understand what's happening in the instruction and have the adequate supports that they need to be successful. We've also hired a bilingual coach to go into our bilingual buildings and support those teachers and provide best practices. And we're in the process of hiring some ENL coaches as well. For our Native American Resource Program, we were able to use ARP funding to fund one of our teacher assistant positions. We're also going to be using different sources to fund some things like our Language Assessment Center coordinator. So we're expanding and adding additional support at the Language Assessment Center, CRC, because it's important to make sure that we stay on top of all the multilingual components related to student placement. We're also going to be looking for support for Lafayette's bilingual program. So we have a task force that has given us feedback on ways to improve the programming and the support for families and students. So we'll be looking to post a position specifically designed just to support the bilingual programming there. A Native American youth group has started. It meets periodically at McKinley, and so we hope to continue to grow that and help our students feel supported and part of the Buffalo Public Schools family. And we are also looking to create a new elective. It's actually going to be a social studies elective on the indigenous cultures of New York State. So we hope to roll that out next year. Because we know if we create opportunity and value our students' linguistic and cultural heritage, then we'll improve academic outcomes for all of our students. Admir, if you could go to the next slide, please. You also know that we've done a lot with extended learning time. So this summer, we had a pre-K 6 summer school program. We offered the K-3 Se Levanta program for our Spanish-speaking families. We had the K-6 Say Yes summer camp program. There was a K-12 Jumpstart program for our newest ENL students. We had the K-12 extended school year program for special education students. We are currently running the 9 to 12 after school program at our high schools. We're looking forward to offering a band camp next summer. So that would be targeting grades 5 to 8. This year we ran 6 to 8 sport camps. We had 7 to 8 summer school. We ran the All Male Academy in grades 7 and 8 due to the wonderful efforts of our CLRI team. We expanded our Mural Mania program to include woke words. And so that was so successful that we hope to continue that program next year and enroll more students. The combination of spoken word and the art has been extremely powerful for our students. We always have a 9 to 12 summer school, but this year we also added a 9 to 12 strength and conditioning program at the high school level. So we've really been trying to broaden the opportunities that we present to our students. So not only can they recover academic standing through our summer school programs, but they can also accelerate and experience enrichment opportunities. So we want to continue that work this summer as well. We know that if we provide enriching extended learning programming and opportunities to recover academic standing, then we'll improve graduation rates and academic outcomes for our students. Admir, if you could go to the next slide, please. I do want to talk briefly about some of the professional development opportunities we've offered. And before I start, I just want to say we have a phenomenal staff development team. They had the foresight to start piloting virtual professional development opportunities before COVID. So when COVID hit, we were actually ready to roll. So we already knew what it took to run a virtual professional development session. We already knew how to use Schoology to maximize those opportunities for teachers. So they had that foresight, and our incredible IT team had the foresight to purchase Schoology. And so the combination of Professional Growth System, PGS, and Schoology has allowed us to continue self-paced offerings throughout the pandemic. And they've actually been really, really successful and very well received by our teaching staff, because it allows us to broaden the number of offerings that we have, and it lets teachers watch them and participate at their own pace. So they're not just sitting with someone going through the training. They can actually do it on their own time. They can rewatch sections. They have access to the folders, and they can go back to see the documents again and again. So it's been very powerful. We've also used ARP funding to expand our letters professional development. So that is currently underway. We've gone up to grade 4 at this point. We have introduced numbers professional development. So again, that's teachers in grades K to 6. We started with our coaches so they'd be able to support the teachers at the building level. And we'll be moving to different grade levels throughout the course of this year. Again, we've started our Orton-Gillingham training that is taking place on Saturdays. So over 100 teachers have already participated, and we'll be rolling it out to several hundred more. But that allows us to take the theoretical knowledge they learn in letters and have a hands-on way to implement it in the classroom. So when we see students who might be at the tier 3 level, they're struggling with the current level of intervention they receive, we have this new opportunity to support them through Orton-Gillingham. So it's been a very exciting opportunity for us. We also continue all of our programmatic training. So for example, the Raising a Reader training, the Great Books training, that is ongoing across departments. We started recently to roll out our Cultural Considerations series. So we've targeted particular language groups that are either new to Buffalo Public or are a larger demographic. So those are self-paced offerings for our teaching staff. It not only allows them to better understand the students that they serve, but it also allows them to meet their CTLE requirement for state education department. So it's serving two purposes for us, but we've gotten great feedback and we continue to expand those offerings. We are currently focused on our instructional priorities. So again, we have a coaching tool for literacy and mathematics. We've been training our administrators how to use that coaching tool to support their teaching staff. And I've been fortunate enough to go out and actually walk classrooms with administrators and see firsthand what that looks like in a classroom. We'll be rolling out assessment PD for the new benchmark tests that we're purchasing. We are beginning to develop a new professional development series on grading, specifically equity in grading. What does that look like and how do you roll that out at your school? So we'll be working with leadership teams at the school level and then rolling it out with all staff across the district. But it's really important to us that we discuss what it looks like to have an equitable grading system in place. I mentioned that we are continuing Step Up to Writing training, and we're focusing on how to integrate technology into Step Up. Again, we've talked about our GATES PD, which is underway with our grade 6 teams. And this summer, we'll be rolling out additional College Board training using our ARP funding. So we know that if we improve teacher capacity to increase student learning by delivering high quality professional development, then we will improve academic outcomes for our students. Admir, if you could go to the next slide, please. So we also want to talk a little bit about technology integration. Everything here is not necessarily new, but I thought it was important to mention the work that's taking place. So because we have a one-to-one device deployment, we are able to do so much with technology in the classroom, and students are able to take those devices home and continue to learn when they're outside of the classroom. So fortunately for us, the IT department had already brought on board Schoology, which is our learning management system. So that enables us to support students by posting lessons in Schoology, housing our curriculum in Schoology, using it for professional development support. So Schoology serves a number of different needs for the district, but specifically it allows us to do any type of remote instruction that we need. And when a student is out, they can still access the lessons or the homework assignment or whatever was used during the class if the teacher posts it in the Schoology course. We also use Teams for virtual conferencing, which has been a godsend during the pandemic. So you know that we used it during remote instruction last year, but we can also use it for team meetings and students who might be quarantined or might need to be home, they can access the classroom instruction through Teams. Nearpod is a delivery tool that we've really capitalized on. Teachers can create lessons using Nearpod. It has very engaging, I don't know the right word for it. There's very engaging opportunities built into Nearpod. So teachers can actually have students do specific activities within the system and they can see the responses that the students submit in real time. So in a math lesson, you can see the work the students are doing on the math problem while you're teaching. So Nearpod can be driven by the students the self-paced way, or the teacher can lead the instruction and pace it herself. But either way, it provides excellent opportunity for teachers to monitor student learning. I would say the same for Office 365. So it allows us to produce, but it also allows us to collaborate. So as adults, we use it to collaborate on lessons, collaborate on plans, because we can work on documents simultaneously. But as a student, it's even more beneficial. The teacher can see the work they are working on at the moment, and they can collaborate with their peers. So I actually watched one of my daughters working on an assignment, and I could see the other student typing things in while my daughter was typing because they were working simultaneously. So the collaboration aspect is just so powerful for kids to be able to work within the classroom and outside of the classroom. We have many online textbooks at this point, so students aren't bound to the actual hardcover book. We do have those, but many of our texts are also online, so students can access those at any time. I just wanted to mention Osmo. So we did purchase that for our pre-K classrooms, and it has a lot of play-based manipulatives. So when students, last year might not have been able to touch some of the objects in the classroom that they were used to using, we were able instead to use Osmo. So the app on the iPad comes with manipulatives, and the students were able to really engage with a lot of different activities in a very hands-on kind of fun way, so that we could continue to develop their love of learning, even though the circumstances might have been a little different. Just some of our other programs. Think Central is part of our reading series, and that is available to all students online. We've talked about Zern. So Zern is available for our K-8 math students. The teacher can assign mini videos and activities and a test to see how the students are doing on particular lessons. So each Zern activity aligns to whatever lesson the teacher just taught in the classroom from the module. Our MobyMax program is not only an intervention. So once you take the diagnostic, it will assign activities, but it also allows the teacher to assign particular activities directly to the students. We've talked about Mayan many times, but we continue to use that as an opportunity for students to have access to more and more diverse texts, to select texts that they want to read. They can use that at any time. It's online, so they can read from home when they want to. Lexia is our online intervention. So any student can access Lexia at any time. One of my colleagues was actually recently telling me how much his child loves using Lexia. And I've watched it in action in classrooms. It's very engaging, and students really love to get the little certificate when they complete a series of lessons. It's very motivational. Castle Learning also allows us to prep for Regents type of items. And then we've talked about IXL and how popular that has become with our teaching staff and our students. And again, we have Living Environment online labs. So we know that if we increase equity by offering greater access and opportunity to our students through this learning technology, then we will improve academic outcomes for all of our students. Admir, if you could go to the next slide, please. I'm starting to lose my voice, so it's probably good that this is the last slide. So I just want to talk briefly about the budget. So some of the things I mentioned are not funded out of ARP necessarily. They may be funded out of different sources. So we continue to optimize all of the funding that's available to us. So we capitalized on our ARP, but we also continue to use O&M, Title I, Title II, et cetera, to support various initiatives. So our approximate ARP funding for the first year is about $28 million. That's not inclusive of all the staff that may be assigned to particular buildings and things like that. So that references the initiatives that I discussed here. So there's more dollars in ARP supporting instruction, but the $28 million is specific to the types of items I discussed in the slides. Our overall ARP stimulus budget is approximately $85 million. Again, to continue the items that we discussed tonight and to expand to different things. So included in that would be a new pre-K program that we'll be purchasing, a new reading series that we'll be purchasing, additional professional development opportunities, et cetera, development of new courses, and staffing that we might need to support, sorry, I keep hearing my family yelling in the background, staffing that we might need to support initiatives as we increase, for example, algebra at grade 8, or other opportunities for advancement that might require additional teaching staff. So I think I just wanted to let you know the types of things that are covered in this funding. So it would include things like materials, licenses, staffing costs, that would include benefits and things, teacher and admin ancillary, so that hourly work that many of our staff is doing, summer school, obviously, various committee work that they might be doing to develop new courses, professional development opportunities, whether it's hourly or full day, and various consultant contracts, for example, like EOS or letters, where we might bring staff in to support the schools. So I think I have covered a lot tonight, but I am very happy to take any questions that you have.
And thank you so much, as always. Excellent. Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown, we'll turn the conversation back to you. I would recommend that if you have questions, colleagues, related to any of those core substance sections, that Admir keep the slide deck on hand. So if you have a question, for example, about special ed or something that you heard, Admir can go back to that slide and it can be an easy reference. It's just a suggestion. So have Admir stay on standby with the slide deck. But I do prefer to look at you and have the conversation this way. So thank you, Ann. Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown.
Yes, thank you. And that was a lot. To just go to show you that we are very complex in this district. So I'm going to start with board members. I don't see any hands, but I'll go alphabetical to see who wants, to see if there are any burning questions or comments. And of course, I'm going to start with board member Sharon Belton-Cotman.
Thank you, Ann Gadatali. Thank you so much. Just want to commend you on the work that you are doing with the STEAM and STEM. I did attend the training at I think it was at Riverside a month or so ago, and I can tell you that the teachers were excited. That was the most exciting part, to watch teachers excited about learning. And all of them said the same thing. We should have been doing this. We should have been doing this. We should have been doing this. And to see them working in small groups, and they even looked a little like they were having fun as children in a playroom. So I just want to thank you for that. The only question I really had was about the summer school. I'm sure you haven't planned it all the way out, but didn't appear to have anything listed for our children, our elementary children. I know we have the Say Yes program, but I did not see anything listed, earmarked for that group of students for the summer. And I was wondering, what are your plans with them? Because many school districts are doing mandatory summer school for their populations for this summer because of COVID.
We will continue to do the pre-K 6 program similar to this past summer. So that will be. We did it inside our building, or was this the Say Yes program? We did both.
You did both, so you're planning on doing both?
Yeah, there was a Say Yes, and there is our own internal program. So that will continue this year.
And also kudos to in regards to the musical program. The only question I had with that was, in the past, principals have been allowed to opt out. So you have some principals that do it, some principals that never do it. And I'm just curious to know if principals will be required to explain why they haven't done it and why they're not doing it, for an equity issue, why some schools do this theater, why some schools do not. So I'm just curious to keep an eye on that, to make sure that all children get an opportunity to participate in these things that are being presented to the schools, and that the adults make sure that the opportunities happen for the children. That's what my concern is with that. But the only other thing is that when you were talking about the AP program, there's being co-chair, being assistant chair to the Big Five conference. I know that a questionnaire was put out in regards to disproportionality in regards to AP. Was that able to be completed by Buffalo? The Big Five, it was a questionnaire that was sent out by New York State Ed, and they were asking the Big Five school districts to talk about disproportionality regarding the AP courses, and I don't know if you were aware that that was out there, but numerous attempts were made to try to get us to complete that. So at the end, was wondering if you were ever even aware that that even existed. So you could answer that.
I did complete that form. I'm not sure where it is at this point, if it was already sent or if it's on its way, but we did complete that questionnaire.
Okay, good. All right, I'll double check that. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Appreciate
you.
everything, you and your staff. And kudos to Kelly Baldo too, because Kelly also did something for the community. She did a pre-K, universal pre-K seminar in which she had her staff work with, answer questions for people in the community. That's her second year doing that. And certainly they appreciate it, Ashley and Kelly and et cetera. So thank you so much for the work that's being done under you. Appreciate it.
Comment, I really appreciate you saying that because I know how hard Kelly and her team work. I would say the same of every one of my team members in central office and Office of Instruction. They have just been phenomenal during this whole period. So I really appreciate you saying that. I know Kelly's listening, so she'll hear that. And
well, I want to say thank you to them too. I haven't had necessarily the opportunity to work with them as I had with her because the community reached out to me about the universal pre-K and getting information about that. But I want to thank all the staff members that are working. You can see that you're putting forth a great effort to try to assist our children, and I want you to know that it is appreciated to all of them as well. Thank you.
I will share that with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Next, Board Member Jen Mikosi.
Did you call on me? Because my computer just froze.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I heard
Correct.
E. So I honestly have nothing to add. That was, you couldn't have explained it any further. Anything that might come up, situationally as we go down the line or people have questions, parents or community have questions, I know who to contact. And now I also have, somewhere where I can research this by myself before I would maybe come to you with answers that are already there and explained. So thank you so much. And yeah, without sounding redundant, like the work that you put into this and your team and the staff that works on this is incredible. And I appreciate this as well. It helps us communicate. It really does. And that's the whole goal for the board, is to make sure we communicate to our constituents. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. President Lou Bertucci.
Thank you very much, Chairman Evans-Brown. I appreciate it. I have just a few questions, Ann. It was a wonderful presentation. I'm very happy that you're expanding our AP offerings. I want to make sure that they're as full as possible. What do we do as a district to refer kids to AP? Is it something that a family decides they want does a teacher make a recommendation? Does a child get to choose? How do we identify students for our AP courses?
Thank you for asking that. I love talking about this. That is actually the purpose of working with equal opportunity schools. In the past, it might have been teacher recommendation, or maybe if a family did reach out. That is not what we want. We want all students to be aware of the opportunities and to advocate for themselves, to say, I want to take that course. But it's been a little bit different at every building. So for example, some buildings they just automatically registered certain grade levels into particular AP courses so that every student automatically has that opportunity. In other buildings, it doesn't quite work out that way, but EOS supports the school teams to identify kids that might have been overlooked. Because I think when I was talking earlier about like the survey that they complete, we found initially that there were some barriers to the students being registered in courses, and we had created them ourselves, right? Kids didn't know that they could take these courses. So partnering with EOS and collecting that type of data has allowed us to expand access to these courses, because now we know not only which courses might interest a student, so to make sure that we offer ones that will be helpful to the kids at the building, that we get the right teachers trained in the courses that, maybe we didn't know that we needed psychology, but there's a big student interest in that. So we can get teachers trained in psychology. But it also break down those barriers. So we don't want a student to feel like, well, I'm not welcome in those classes, or that's for other kids. So when we collect that data, we're able to say, like, this student has expressed interest in going to college. They've expressed interest in the field of science. So let's talk to that student about the science opportunities we have for AP or for dual enrollment. So Equal Opportunity Schools has brought that attention to the particular aspect of enrollment. And it's really helping us get more and more kids in. I don't have the data in front of me, but we've continued to improve our enrollment of typically underserved students.
And as a follow-up question,
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, that's great. And I just, as someone who took a lot of AP courses way back when, I know that oftentimes we formed informal support groups and study groups because they're much more challenging. I just want to make sure that the children have the support that they need to do well. So what would be in place to help our children that are taking these additional courses that are much more challenging?
So we try to identify an adult that the student trusts. So that adult can be a cheerleader for the student and potentially help them access different opportunities for supports. We're also working really closely with our AP team at central office to get kids enrolled in the online program that AP College Board has created. So that gives additional practice opportunities, and teachers can assign AP type exams to kids and let them practice and experience the types of problems they'll encounter, or the types of questions they'll encounter, or the types of texts that they'll encounter. And the continued training of the teachers through College Board, as well as the support that the staff internally is able to provide, has been helpful.
That's great. A couple more questions for the heritage languages that we're going to be speaking or that we're going to be teaching. Are they open to the whole community, or just the families, just the people at that school? Anybody in the Buffalo Public Schools?
I can get you particulars. I don't have that at my fingertips, but I think it's targeted at people that are from those language groups, but not necessarily at that building.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Thank you. And last, with the special education, I'm glad that you had a slide and gate presentation. I know that's one of the most frequent phone calls that I receive from parents is just the struggles that we've had over the last couple months with our special ed population, particularly when it came to people who can't wear a mask and giving some of the services that have been difficult. Just wonder if you could expand a little bit upon our special ed and what we're going to be doing going forward.
Of the various initiatives that were
correct.
Okay. So I think you saw on my slide that many of those things are focused on behavioral supports and social emotional supports for students. So one, will be able to screen students for behavioral needs, which will give us targeted information about how to support them better. We'll be training the teachers of our autistic students. We'll be training them with specific strategies to use to support those students. The type of things that we're doing through Eye to Eye, for example, or through Student Voice, is to help students advocate for themselves, help them learn strategies that they can use to be successful. And the peer-to-peer mentoring is going to allow younger students to see, like, oh, I can do this. This student is already successful at high school. I can be successful too. So connecting kids across buildings and across grade levels is going to be really powerful for our students. But academically, we're also trying to support there. So we'll also be doing, like, for example, the Orton-Gillingham. So we might have students that, for whatever reason, just have never really mastered decoding, and we haven't had the supports in place that they need. So now Orton-Gillingham will allow us to enhance the instruction that we provide to make sure that those students can become proficient at reading. So that's another level of support that the teachers and students will receive. I guess if there's something particular you want to know, I think our Student Voice initiative is really powerful. So students in the past might not have known what opportunities existed at the high school level for them. So now we come in and we actually go over every program that's available to them so they can make an informed decision as they move up into the high school setting. We're also expanding our CTE programming for all of our special education populations. So we're working very closely with Rob Harris to develop new programs to support students who might want to do the same types of things that their gen ed peers are doing. And we can give them a modified version so that they can be successful in those programs as well. So the transition curriculum, I think, is going to be powerful, helping students develop skills throughout their high school career so that they're ready for post-secondary. So they know how to self-regulate, they know how to control their emotions, they know the types of things they can do to support themselves and how to advocate for themselves as they move up.
All very important things. Thank you very much, Ann.
Colleagues, before you go to the next question, Dr. Evans-Brown, I want to touch back on a comment that Lou made. I think it's important. And I thought I had heard EOS describe a part of their work with us, that the peer-to-peer support group is very important off of the medical model, medical college student model, the law school student model, where you get together in dyads or triad groups and you study together and help each other. So Lou, if we don't have something like that specific, I don't want to lose that idea. I think it's very important. It's a very good idea, especially for students. As we broaden the AP interest base, you're going to have a greater variation in, you know, ability to get in that course, pass the exam. So the newer enrollees will need more support. And so I do think, and if you don't already have that built in through EOS, you know, reach out to Luke or president and see how it used to work when he was coming through. And let's get that integrated into our support for these kids.
Sure, and I think our study skills course will help with some of that as well. What I've seen working with students in classrooms, looking at my own students, they don't always know exactly how to approach studying, right? So the purpose of our new study skills course is to teach kids those habits so that when they do encounter like an AP type of course, a very rigorous course, they already know how to study appropriately. They know how to take notes appropriately. They know the skills that they will need to be successful in that type of course. So we could potentially partner some of the AP courses with the study skills course to make sure that kids have that, but the study skills will be available grades 9 to 12.
And the earlier the better with that study skills piece. That should start earlier in 6th grade, 5th grade with study skills. I mean, lower even, but certainly by the time you reach 5th grade, you should be well equipped with great study skills repertoire. So let's keep building it. You're on the right track. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next we have Dr. Ann Rivera.
Thank you very much. So I want to join my colleagues in saying thank you very much for both the very in-depth presentation, but also just the work that's being done. It's really wonderful to see this. And I just have to add just a special thank you for working on grading equity, which is just a personal interest of mine. I think it has a lot of potential to go really far. I'd also like to second anything that can be done to facilitate study skills in middle school, because definitely it's a good time for students. I only have a few questions for you. The first one is just an overarching one, and it has two parts because they're related, which is, I know that you and your colleagues are implementing these things because you intend to see some strong outcomes from students in terms of their ability. What kind of outcomes are you anticipating, and what kind of timeline should we think about? And related to that is, will any of these initiatives address some of the learning loss that all of us are seeing as a result of COVID?
So everything that we do hopefully will address the learning loss.
Exactly.
I don't know how to answer the first part of your question without getting into particulars, because every one of the initiatives would probably have a different intended outcome specific to that particular initiative.
That's fair.
For example, like partnering with BOS, our target is increased enrollment of underserved students. That would be our #1 target. eventually through the AP initiative, we'd like to see the scores increasing
Mhm.
on the AP exams. But our
Mhm.
first goal is to have kids exposed to that rigorous coursework itself.
Mhm.
So depending on the particular item that we're talking about, we would have different targets, and we're working with OSA to establish exactly how to track the outcomes that we
Yeah.
want to see.
I was curious about that because it's big work and there are so many pieces to it. So I understand what you're saying about that. But so one of the things that we're thinking a lot about as a board is we're thinking about how do we measure what the actual work, really what it's about from my perspective is that it's about making visible the work you're doing with students in all the different ways. So we have different kinds of assessments. We have state assessments, we have grades, we have all of these different data points. But a lot of what you're pointing out here is equally important in my mind, which is students using Lexia, students using Fast Forward, students being exposed to Orton Gilliam or working with Orton Gilliam in various ways. And I was curious about how you track that. So what I heard from you, though, is that you are working on that to make that kind of thing visible as you move forward.
Yes, we
Okay.
actually had an initial meeting with OSA, and we're going to come back to sit with them because we recognize that every one of these is going to have a slightly different target, and
Mhm.
we have different ways that we're going to be able to track things. Some of it will be through surveys of students to see what's working and what's not. I think I
Mhm.
mentioned we're
Oh,
doing
I
a
like
survey
that.
with our transition curriculum students just to see, like, did this benefit you? Are you planning to go to college? Did this course entice you to go to college if you weren't already planning to? That type of thing, just so we get some initial feedback.
Mhm.
But we're also going to look at enrollment numbers. We'll look at participation rates. We'll look at test outcome data, state assessments, that type of thing. So
One of the ways I would answer, Dr. Rivera, that question, because I think it's important, and certainly it's on top of mind of all of us, is what you've been seeing is that now the district is providing more and more and more access, more opportunity, more equity, more quality for you to be able to get into. So through these technology integration apps and programs that Ann talked about there in slide number 9, all of the things that happen under literacy and math, if the district is doing its part, but the district owns about half of this, half of it. The other half, and we have to help parents, we have to help students, but you got to get on, you got to get interested, you got to put the time and the effort in. It's not all on the district. It is not in the times we live in. And if parents put in and monitor and encourage and urge their students to study more, to take advantage of all that we have to offer, and the students put in that 10,000 hours of studying, that means at least 2 or 3 hours per day outside of school, that's when you will see quicker results. That's when you'll see the catch up. That's when you'll see this difference that the ARP ESSER funds were supposed to address. But it is not a one-sided algorithm. It is always going to be a 50-50. And so as board members, you can help us educate the parents about what we do have and how important it is to attend school, how important it is to take your computer device back and forth from school to home, home to school, access it after school hours, work on it on the weekend, work on it during the holidays. See, in order to catch up, you got to work more. You got to do more. There's no shortcuts. But the district is providing the opportunity, the access, the equity, and now even the quality for you to get there, So help us with that narrative, help us with that message. Right now it is disrupted, but even if you're home on quarantine and you're feeling up to it, go to work, do some work, get engaged, get online, be in a chat room with your teachers. They have office hours. They're available. All of this is available now. That's what Ann's presentation is showing you. And we'll keep going. We'll keep at it. But it's a 50-50 proposition, colleagues. It's 50-50.
So that is exactly why I asked the question I did, because one of the things that happens with parents occasionally, or even frequently, is there is so much being offered that it isn't always recognized that when you have these programs and these programming in these different opportunities for students, that each of them are targeted towards working with students and raising and supporting their engagement. And by doing the kind of thing that Spotticelli is talking about with student surveys and making that connection for us, that this is all related to dealing with student achievement. This is all about giving that opportunity. That does help parents make that connection, because sometimes what happens with some of these programs is it looks like it's just a program. It's just kind of there for students. And it's hard to understand that it's directly related, that the more you engage with these things, the more likely that you are going to move forward in terms of student achievement. And so that's important for all of us to really think about. But it's also really important to understand that this is a portfolio of a way in which that we get a snapshot of how students are doing, where they're at, and the level at which they're engaging with things. And so I think that was a big piece of why I asked what I did. I thank you for your comments. So my last question is simply one about, and it should come as no surprise, is about the needs assessment that's being done for the students with autism. I'm really, really pleased to hear this. I think this is going to do great things for our students, for our parents, for the district at large. I understand that you're doing a needs assessment with the 6 classrooms. And I'm curious about, I suspect the answer is simply yes. I'm just going to say that in advance. It's only 6 classrooms, but are there multiple levels of need being looked at in those classrooms to give a more accurate assessment of individuals with autism? Because there's always, our individuals with autism, there's a wide range of ability in the community.
So I'm not going to be able to answer that tonight. If
That's
you
okay.
want to email me, Dr. Rivera,
I'm happy to.
I can get you the answer.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. That was all I had.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I believe that when we talk about, 50-50, everyone has to be accountable. In all fairness, we do have parents who do ensure that, their children are, completing homework, that they are accessing, the services that are available. And I remember, I have some little grandsons who were starting out this year for the first time in kindergarten. And so the 1 4-year-old it was September. He didn't turn 5 until later in the year. And so, of course, my boys think I'm the expert. And one of them asked me, did I think that this young boy should go into pre-K or kindergarten? And so I thought about it. I said, well, he know all his colors. He know his numbers. He may not identify the numbers, but he could count to at least 10. And he knew, some of the letters in his name. I said, put him in kindergarten. Well, as a result, now we're talking, this is what, January, back in December, November, this little boy was identifying every number. Identifying it. He was, saying, putting the letters in his name. And when he did it with the calendar, talking about Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, went all the way through 31, I was like really impressed. But my point is, I think no matter what we do in terms of giving the information and having access to the services that Ann, you talked about, there is, as a board, I do think that we're also looking at the data for just in general. And so it seemed to me at around, this is January, around April, is that possible to come back and say, These are some of the results of this portfolio of services that we are offering to our children, and this is from point A to point B. This is what it looks like. I think that's fair. So moving right along, and I don't
Well,
want you
wait a minute. Let me answer that.
to. Okay.
Because that's part of what was asked prior. So I think it's fair to ask, can we see some of the emerging results? Some
Correct.
of the emerging results.
Mhm.
Because, you know, this is work in progress. And this is work that has been severely disrupted on a whole host of ways. The attendance has been disrupted. Illness has affected families in a lot of different ways. And yet we've been steady at the wheel because your district has been open all year long. It's been open. So we can say as a result of that, and as a result of some of the purchases that are now starting to come in, and the PD that is ongoing, and the teacher work that is starting to get deeper in the tissue, it is fair to look at where we are. See, this is a 3-4 year prospectus. It's going to take time. You got to make haste slowly. Even though everybody wants you to make haste fast, this is not fast work. Because that's not where kids are. Kids are behind. Some are ahead, many are behind. So you can look at where we are with the tools that we have. That's fair.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Cash. That's what I was looking for, because it is an emerging process.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Board Member Larry Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Evans-Brown. Chief Botticelli, wonderful presentation, very robust, a lot of variety in those options for all of our learners at all levels. I'll be very succinct because a lot of my colleagues have shared the positive remarks that I share. But just as a parent, I feel that what you presented tonight is filtering down into the classroom. I'm seeing it with both of my boys in 2 different schools. Some of your slides mentioned the impact on motivation and engagement. Their motivation and engagement with school and schoolwork, homework is the highest I've seen. And it's coming at a time where we're certainly far from a normal school year. So a credit to you, a credit to your team, and also huge credit to all of our teachers and staff that are implementing this important work in our buildings under a lot of stress, shortages in staffing, the fear of COVID still lingering out there. So it's making a difference, especially I'm seeing it with my 3rd grader who also started this year far behind in the area of reading, and the growth in his reading has been incredible, and as well as his motivation and engagement as a learner. So those are my remarks as a parent. So thank you for all the hard work. It's making a difference.
From one parent to another, thank you very much.
Okay, and let's see, I think lastly is Board Member Paulette Woods.
I'd like to say thank you for a very extensive presentation. It is makes me very hopeful, but I do have some questions going along each of the different situations. First, let me say kudos for having the social workers and the psychologists in there. That part in the special ed really made my heart feel good, because I feel like the social emotional component is a challenge for our youth. So that staffing, great. That's absolutely wonderful. A lot of what you're presenting shows the need for technology, our dependence on technology, the move to more remote training, remote access, the need for teachers to feel comfortable teaching remotely. So what my question is, speaking to some of my schools, is where is the new technology being deployed? And Dr. Cash, you'll probably be better able to answer this. But Ann, do you see the problems and the challenges with technology? Some of my best schools are the ones whose technology is the oldest and needs to be upgraded. And I know we put a priority on using American Rescue Act monies for technology. So for me, the question I'm being asked is, you know, when I have a school where the teacher couldn't log into their attendance module for half an hour, and the teachers are frustrated with, we need the technology upgrades. When the board meeting, the parent was saying, well, what about the whiteboards? If we're going to have all this wonderful classes and it's dependent on technology, I'm hoping that we can get more information on the rollout of the technology, the upgrading for the laptops and things for the teachers. You know, I'm sorry, I always keep it real because people come to me with the real problems. They need help and they want us to use the resources to address it. So I'm trying not to be Debbie Downer, but if we don't give the teachers the technology and the newer equipment so that they can use all these wonderful tools, then that's where the wonderful programs and ideas can't get implemented. So that's something I was going over with one of my schools, and they were saying, well, I don't want to be a prima donna, but can somebody report on where is the technology and when is the new rollout coming to each of the schools? So I don't know if you want to speak on that, Dr. Cash, but the other thing that I had happen to me today, I had a parent totally frustrated and just at her wit's end. And her children, they love school. They want to be in school. Some of them the one kid is challenged. He needs the interaction and the speech therapy. And because of our bus situation, her kids have missed days of school. And her question to me was, well, how do I get the assignments? The parent is like, can somebody give me the assignment? Yes, I have a laptop and the one child has an iPad, but how do I get the assignment? Even if it's written paperwork. So, you know, this is where the gaps are. The parent is asking me, my child wants to learn. I'm a parent that will do whatever I can to help them get to school, but when they miss it, how do I get the assignments home? How do I access it? And I love what you said about, hey, they can go on Schoology and these programs, and there's a way to get the education the parent was asking me for, but the parent doesn't know how to do it. And we are going to have challenges because of 40 buses or 54 buses. The bus drivers are at COVID, they're not there. So the parents really need this technology. They need to know how to use it. And the teachers need their technology so they can get it to the students. So for me, the whole thing is, we got great information. Can we link the parent, the teachers to be able to use all these wonderful, wonderful opportunities that we're presenting, because they have the initiative. They do, Dr. Cash. This parent spent 45 minutes saying how important it was to meet you halfway for her kids to be able to do this. I didn't have an answer, and if she's watching, I hope you have an answer for her.
Yeah, we have answers, but I mean, you know, let us know whenever. I told you this all the time. If you get something come to you, you send it to me, and we'll reach out to the parent. You know, you don't have to do it all the time on television. Just that's a one case. Send it to me. We're here all day, every day. We'll get right to you. I'll send my best person on it. She'll have all the answers she needs. She'll have all the
Okay.
answers. That's on that one. Okay.
Okay.
On the other one about laptops and whiteboards and all of that has been purchased. All of that is in the new whiteboards will be coming to you, I think, this month, if not very soon. All of the new laptops for teachers and the upgrades are in. And so I'm just waiting on a distribution plan for that. They're all already done for students. And so all the tools and resources will be at your fingertips, if not right now, because for most they are, then very shortly. And so that's the good news. And then you connect the dots and you're off and running. You're off and running, truly. And that's how we've been explaining it here tonight. So we appreciate that question. Parent like that, motivated, and wants her child to go ahead, she can go ahead. They can go all the way to best in class, all the way to best in class. And we'll be having professional development workshops for parents. Dr. Reynolds is structuring those now. Miss Edwards, Sarah Edwards, is going to be working those curricula out for parents. This is the whole point. They can get assignments, enrich, go ahead, weekends, Saturdays, holidays, all the time. In this day and age, there's no excuse really, except for extraordinarily challenged individuals who don't have much support, for anybody really to be behind, and certainly not to stay behind. You can be behind for a while, but then you can catch up with all that we have available today. That's a point of pride. That's a point of pride, colleagues, that you should be excited about. Share with your colleagues. Share all of the things that Buffalo Public has and is providing for you, the parent, for you, the student. That's the narrative. That's the message. That's the message. And all of these 18 people that come to your meetings every week, you tell me the problem, write it to me. I've said from the beginning, Will Carestis, Nate Kuzma, Kreiner Cash. You send any question, any concern to me and those three, and within 48 hours, you'll have a response. There it is.
Okay. Okay. Well, there are a lot of concerned, committed parents, and I'm just hoping that our answer of connecting the parent with the how-to would be broader than just that one parent, maybe, I don't know, a class or something. So they're more than just that one parent. And so she would see how to get the homework and how to access it. I want to also commend you on the AP section where you put in there the civics course. Can I assume that when you said the civics, that what I'm getting from students is they're caught in the middle of watching all of this confusion going on about voting rights and the split in our democracy? Will democracy be saved? And they're asking and looking for somebody to make sense of, I don't know if we can say who's right, who's wrong, but to put it into some kind of civic context that will maybe bring us together, because we have such a divided civil discourse right now. So is the AP Civics course going to be able to help the students navigate what's going on right now with, voting rights being wiped out, the democracy saying justice, liberty for all in the whole spectrum? I mean, is that what your civics course is going to try to make sense of? Because a lot of students are saying, I'm out here looking at this. Somebody makes sense.
It's not actually a course, it's a seal. It's the seal of civic engagement. and they're piloting that work. It ends up being a project that the student completes as part of it. But I'm happy to have Mr. Brandy reach out to you and give you some more specific information. It's a state ed initiative.
Okay. Just two more questions and I'm done. As far as a lot of the extended learning, again, it says the after school programs and the Saturday programs. And my understanding is those are not actually ongoing right now. It's something that's going to happen or resume.
The high school program is underway. So they have started the high school programming for after school. Saturday programming, I believe, has been going on all year, although I think there was a pause right
we
now.
paused Saturday for about 2 to 3 weeks while the surge is at its peak. We're hearing from medical officials that the peak will be over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so we didn't want to have Saturday Academy occurring during that time. That was a recommendation. I thought it was a thoughtful recommendation, and we have paused Saturday Academies for about 2 to 3 weeks.
And you're saying the high school is going on at all the high schools?
It might be virtual. How is it Is it going on in person, or is it virtual? Do you know?
I believe it's in person for the most part, and yes, at the high schools.
All right, we'll check on that through Tara.
Okay, and a last question, but Dr. Katz, that would be, I guess you would have to ask direct the finance staff. The summary in the budget says so many millions that is going to be dedicated to this area, and it'll be money well spent. But can Jeff provide the details on that? What the 28 million and let's see how many other million is that you're saying in the budget? 85 million. Can we get some details to what comprises those two figures?
Sure. And that's
Okay.
planned for a subsequent meeting in your committee. I believe we had talked about that coming up, but we can get it in advance if you like in an email.
Yes, I would greatly appreciate that. I do have that as a standing item, and it would be great to get the details on this because it is an exciting program. So that's all I have to say. Kudos.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kathy Brown.
Yes, I'm going to go back one more time. Board member Sharon Cotman, do you have any other thoughts, comments?
The only thing that comes to mind that I didn't get clarity on is the virtual learning, the option. Today, I emailed every board member the email about a device that allows for asynchronous and synchronous learning to occur in the classroom. Some of the schools purchased it. Burgard was going to purchase it and was blocked from purchasing it, told that there would be another opportunity, and it has not happened. The principal that does have that device is saying that it's an excellent device. It allows the teacher to teach the classroom as well as the students from home. And the cost is $2,200. We have the money available to upgrade, and I want to know, if this is something that the district can consider doing, because there is a need for, or could very possibly be a need in the near future for us not to be in school, and we may have to resort back to being virtual in our classrooms. And since the device exists, it's there to be used, why wouldn't we update our systems to make sure that if a parent had to teach, or if a teacher had to teach a child from home, or teach a child at home, that and they could be a part of their classroom. That's what technology is doing for us right now, affording us that. And so I sent it out to each board member. I've talked about it on numerous occasions. Prior to Myra, our IT head, leaving, I had a conversation with her about it. And I don't know where it went. But I think that we're remiss if we don't take advantage of technology that allows the teacher to conduct a class and teach children at home at the same time. Also, the other thing that came up, Dr. Brown, is that I have a text from people asking me, why can't we comment? How can we comment? How can we ask questions of the board? During committee meetings. So I think this is something that needs to be worked out so that the parents can at least have some, if they have our listening audience, the people who take the time to tune in, that if they have a question that they can ask it. So what I sent to the woman is I said, well, send me your question and I will try to ask it for you. But she hasn't done it yet. So we have to have a way to allow our constituents to communicate with us during these work sessions. We really do.
Well, I don't agree with that, but we should discuss that. I don't agree with that.
You don't agree that people who are listening should be able to ask a question to the board?
No, not during a work session.
About what's going on at the table?
A board work session.
It's
for you and staff to solve problems, not to open it up to have a lot of questions at a board work session. I don't know of any case where they do that. I've never done it throughout my career.
Well, I don't know what you've done throughout your career, but these are the times where parents are frustrated. And if they can reach out to their board member, or if we can have some monitoring some questions and have staff answer it so that people can have more clarity, I think it's a good idea.
They might not be able to give you clarity on the spot about questions during a work session.
You may not, but it doesn't mean that it won't be available to people in the future.
But I believe very strongly. I think
I understand your beliefs, but as a board, I'm just trying to open it up for our.
That's a whole nother ball of wax. Whole nother ball of wax.
Well, I don't see where there's a problem with people being able to ask questions. I'm sorry that you do. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like, okay, hold on a second. Here's Jen. You want to chime in that conversation?
I just need a little clarity. I had brought this up previously about how sometimes during work sessions when we were in person, people were able to speak, and we weren't when we went virtual. I believe board member Cotman, when I brought this up, you were against this and said we should have forums within our district or hold sort of meet. Yeah, this was, I was upset by the fact that you weren't. Okay,
let me be clear. I've never been against.
Hold on. Let me finish my question, please.
I've never been against.
I'm only stating this because I literally was I asked because we did have people who were bringing up questions according to topic. I thought that was protocol, and I was actually almost chastised by you for asking that, because that was not something we do during work sessions. This is what you had said to me.
Okay, I'm sorry if you feel that way. Why don't you bring me to me?
I mean, it was very, hold on. It was very clear to me that this was something you weren't appreciative of, because when I asked it, you said that is not protocol. That is not how we do things.
That's not true.
I was literally the recipient of this, and I brought that same exact question and was distraught by the answer. I accepted it. You were president at the time. So I'm just wondering whether or not something has changed. Is it simply because we're going virtual that, there's a different sense of how you were? I mean, I was pretty.
Okay. Let me respond to this.
It took me down a level because I didn't know how to respond to the people who asked me.
Okay, let me correct something here. Darren Brown was working on trying to facilitate this. Okay, I have never been against people being able to ask questions to this board about anything. Okay, now you may be talking about something specific, but what I'm talking about here is that I have asked, and Darren can confirm this, that he was trying to facilitate a way to do this. And that is something that I had asked him to do. And so that's something that did not get done with the many things that he was juggling. He did not get it. I have talked to Lou on several times about this. So I don't know where the confusion comes in at, but I wanted to be
no
clear
confusion, Ms.
that I have
Cutman.
always
There's no
wanted to
confusion.
ask questions.
I asked the
people to be
same
able to ask
question you asked. The same question
I
that
think
you
there's a
asked
misunderstanding.
now. No, so
So
I'm
you
being,
understand.
I don't appreciate being patronized. I asked the same exact question you just
I don't
put forward.
appreciate being told what I did.
I asked the same exact question you put forward. How can we bring questions from our constituents to the work session?
And I
Because
asked
we
you
were
too.
able, no, what you had said was it was not protocol.
Oh,
And that's not
please.
something we're doing right now. You push back against it and literally
Okay.
told
Well,
me.
I'm sorry if you feel that way.
It
Okay,
isn't
so
about how I feel. I don't understand.
I'm
the
sorry you
quickness.
feel that way, but I
It's
had
not
Darren
about
trying
how,
to work on this
you know,
on numerous occasions, and I asked Lou Petrucci to work on it.
I'm not having a roundabout with you. I'm just
Good,
not.
thank you.
I'm literally putting forward that you're contradicting yourself, and I'm wondering.
It's your
how that's
opinion,
going to
Jennifer. It's your opinion. It's not
my
fact.
opinion. It's the
It's not
recollection
fact.
of you
I'm through
answering a
talking about it.
question
I'm through
that
talking about it. It's
you
history.
know what? You know what? The louder you get, the more it looks like you definitely get exactly what I'm saying.
Let's get back to the topic.
Lou, have I not asked you over and over again since you've been president about this one issue that I did not get resolved with Darren Brown or not? Yes or no?
Yes, Sharon, I can give you the whole history.
Thank you. Thank you. End of that discussion.
Well, we're not going
So-
to here now. Lou, are you on the floor? Because I do see Ann's hand up as well.
Asked it over and over and over again. Telling that lie.
Okay. Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
Wonderful. This has come up before, and we have been told no in the past. It's been that way over the past 3 superintendents, according to my recollection. But the question of how do parents ask for clarification during work sessions is a reasonable one, and one I think we should address as a board. My suggestion would be, however, I understand, actually before I make my suggestion, however, I understand what Dr. Cash is saying, which is that when we are asking clarification, we want to be sure that our staff is ready to answer the question in a way that makes sense. And so I would suggest that we start keeping question logs during our work sessions, and then we'll be able to run through the answers, give staff time to create the answers, and then also be able to address the ones that apply to the general public at the table for information, and also be able to address the individual situations by making referrals to the appropriate personnel.
Now, when you talk about a question log, Ann, do you mean that we'll take the questions at that time and provide the answers to the next work session?
We would need to work out exactly how we have the timing, but I do want to give staff the respect to be able to look up answers, to be able to find the answers, but also too, this is the best way for clarity. We're not doing parents any service if we don't have full answers for them. So the idea would be, rather than announcing them at the table, what I'm thinking in terms of procedure, what we could do is have a shared document among board members that we share with the cabinet. We ask those questions and we be sure that those answers get answered. And the only ones that we would address later could be at the very next meeting, could be at the next appropriate work session, would be the overarching ones that need an answer.
I like that. It certainly sounds like perhaps, I mean, we could further discuss this, perhaps find, time, at one of at the committee meetings to, I don't know how much time, but time to answer the questions that were put forth during the meeting. So it's something that we can certainly consider. We don't want to throw it away or disregard it totally, because we are in a different place. We're in a different place now. This is out of the norm. Things that we probably would have said, oh, no, we're not doing. We're considering those things now, right? And so it certainly is something that we will consider as a board. Okay, anybody else on this?
Thank you.
Yeah, Kathy, just to respond quickly, that Sharon did ask me that I did some preliminary research of what was happening in some of the other districts. What happens is that generally at a work session, people do not, the public isn't invited to participate. However, what they do is that they will have a question log. To touch upon what Evan has said is that the questions have to be submitted by a date certain beforehand so that there is time to get an adequate response. And then you memorialize those questions so that they're out there so that if someone was asking about the question later on, you refer them to the question log, they search the question log, and it's there. One of the things that I know that was occurring that was of concern to myself is that when board members were taking questions from the general public over their phone, that really it's not a good course and not a good method, because we didn't really have protocols in place to take questions from the public. So we really need to formalize this going forward. What I'm hoping also is that by having a question log that memorializes these things, that the repetitive questions that we get, we can just refer people to that response so that people are familiar with it over and over again. It becomes almost like a frequently asked question type thing where there'll be it's a database where people can search and see what the answers are to their questions. And then they have something new, then we can modify or do the research and respond. And that seems to be when I poke around what I see other districts doing.
I like that.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. And I want to be clear, at the time when we initially started doing the work sessions, we were trying to figure out how to do everything. Darren was trying to figure out how to handle all these balls in the air. Option in regards to having people call in and talk to us during work sessions was never an option. So that may be where the confusion is. But he has always tried to figure out a way to coordinate and have a way that people could ask questions on the topics that we were discussing, irregardless whether it's normal practice or whatever. It is a question that I've always had. I pushed it forward. I even shared it with Lou when he came on, of things that we were trying to do to make sure that the public could be engaged about this. That's it. And that's the bottom line. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Anybody else on that topic? If not, that concludes the student achievement portion. And I'll turn it over to Lou, President Lou Bertucci.
Thank you. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation with Westminster and Enterprise Charter Schools? I see a motion by Jen McCosey, second by Kathy Evans Brown. Does anybody need a break?
Fine.
I see shaking heads. So it is 7:13. So how does 7:25 sound? 12 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay, 7:25, we will reconvene in executive session.
Admir.
Okay. All right, thank you everyone for our listening audience for their patience. Just want to let everyone know that the board did go into executive session to discuss pending litigation with Westminster and Enterprise Charter Schools. No decisions were made at this time. Is there anything else for the board? How's everyone feeling? You want to go for another hour? You good? No? Okay. All right, all minds being settled. Thank you very much, guys. A very productive work session this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Good night.
And thanks to the
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be safe.